no secret women have become much more prominent within the media. They have shown just as much will, determination and courage as men have. But does it take more than that? Are women breaking down the proverbial glass ceiling? And are they really able to balance their personal and professional lives?
Well, you know, I have to confess that sometimes it can be a little tough.
In the profession of journalism, in which the timings are just as unpredictable as the news, many women find themselves caught between two worlds. But these women seem to be just as dedicated and plough through vigorously. But do they find that there is a constant tug of war?
I don't really think that, you know, it's one of those situations where we think that it's either or anymore. I think for a lot of women like me, you know, we've been brought up to think, especially in urban areas, we've all been brought up to think that we can do anything we want to.
It's all about balancing. You shouldn't go overboard. Most people think that you're doing a huge thing by being a journalist. You're doing a profession, you have to treat it professionally.
When you go through, as women, and you have children, you do have to think about how you balance it.
Some weeks may become entirely consumed by breaking news, and that may take a toll on their personal lives. How do these journalists balance motherhood?
You have to work, and you have to have a baby.
I knew where I was getting into. I knew that this is the kind of job where I may have to get up at 6 in the morning and suddenly realize there's a blast or a fire and be out. And I may not return home till 12. So I have to set up a system in my house whereby everybody is able to survive even when I'm not at home.
Balance. Sometimes I do feel that I live here. You know, I spend a lot more time here. But I have to say that I think I found my balance. You know, but even otherwise, I think you see a lot of people out there my age, you know, who've been there for a while, have family. And I think we're doing a brilliant job of balancing both. No reason to complain. If my daughter's going to be sitting on Oprah saying my mother was never around and I blame her for where I am, I don't know, 15 years down the line, I'll call you for another interview and then we can talk about it then. But for the moment I can say that I think it's been tough, but I think I may have found that balance.
As long as the child doesn't forget what I look like and she recognizes me as a mother, I think I'm fine.
Usually what happens is that they get adjusted to the fact that, you know, they have a working mother who spends less time, but hopefully, you know, whatever time they spend is quality, and I think babies are forgiving. So I always keep that in mind and don't worry too much about it, because after all, women like us have to work, right?
As these successful women juggle their personal and professional, they're faced with the challenge of being a female in an industry that can sometimes be dangerous and leave them vulnerable. How far is gender an issue, and has the industry adjusted appropriately?
So, you know, there are a lot of things, let me tell you, being a girl in any sort of industry that has to do with public relations, but particularly journalism, where you have to go out there, get your stories, meet, the characters could be lechy, the characters could be anything, and trust me, I've heard, it hasn't really happened to me, but I've heard horror stories, and all the people that were there, they were sort of the drunk, loiterers, the guards. The only sober people were the guards. So I told my campus, because I don't talk to them, he says, you get them. So he caught them and everything. And I said, okay, kya hua, aapko kaise laga ye wo? And he went and he was drunk, he was slurring and everything, and suddenly he goes.
हम थे पहाड़गंज होटल में, तो हम खाना खा रहे थे, तो एकदम 2 बार हुई थी धड़क ऐसे हुई थी, तो मैं तो खाना खाना छोड़ दिया, मैं उठ गया, तो हमने सोचा ये मेट्रो चल रही है, उसकी वजह से झटका लगा, तो हमने सोचा हमारे नीचे मेट्रो चलती है, वहाँ तो इतना झटका लगता नहीं, ये तो हमारे से दूर है मेट्रो भी, तो इतना झटका कैसे लगेगा? तो और लोग फिर देगा थोड़ी देर,
आपको डर लगा? आपको डर लगा?
नहीं डर लगा, ऐसा क्या बहन जो क्या हो गया क्या नहीं?
ठीक है, तो आप एक मिनट, हमारे साथ गार्ड है, we have a guard with us who also felt the tremors. Let's ask him. तो आप भी यहाँ पे थे?
हम यहाँ गेट नंबर 4 पे ड्यूटी दे रहे थे, एकदम से जबरदस्त झटका सा लगा, हमने सोचा कि कहीं ऐसा दोबारा से कहीं ब्लास्ट तो नहीं हो गया, हम डर गए, डर के एक तरफ भाग के खड़े हुए।
A lot of policemen, especially in Delhi, still are a little skeptical about speaking to women.
Although female journalists at some point may have felt at a disadvantage, as the industry evolved, so did female involvement. They have been seen to report from the most dangerous regions and on the most controversial topics. women now feel as though they are no less capable than men.
I feel that women have been at the top of the profession, you know, and there are people, we are not breaking any glass here. Women have already been, I mean, like her mom was a war correspondent, so, you know, so it's not like we're breaking any new ground. So journalism that way has always taken in women. We have women at the top of political journalism, diplomatic journalism, they're presenters, they're doing political news, especially in NDTV.
Our top journalists in the country are really women. Women are really... Well, if you look around, you know, you'll see that there are more women than men. I mean, yeah, the male species is sort of a little threatened, I suspect, in the business, because there are, especially here at NDTV, sort of, I think there's a far greater majority of women than men. So you do feel really comfortable. In recent years, there has just been a lot more women in the field, etc. Women are everywhere and doing, I must say, a better job, not as good, but a better job than the men. Maybe the men have reason to grumble, and I would sort of ground them that, but not the women. Yeah.
As the industry grows and new league of journalists form their opinions about the roles of women in journalism, how do they really feel about the industry?
I was working in Dubai, so, you know, there's not that much sex discrimination over there. They get a lot of preference in the Middle East, the Gulf, so people are really careful. They have separate ladies' lines. If I'm doing an interview and there's a guy waiting and I'm a girl, they will let me go first. So that's actually one of the nicer things about being a woman in journalism. I've always been treated equally. No one has ever told me you're a woman and you can't do something.
I wouldn't exactly say it's easy for a man or it's easy for a lady, but when it comes to being a woman, she has to handle so many roles. Honestly, if you look at a lady who's married, a woman who is married, she has to juggle her family, plus work in an environment which demands 24/7, you know, attention. I mean, you know, you are probably cooking lunch for your family and, you know, breaking news happens, there's a bomb blast somewhere or there's a fire somewhere and you have to leave all that aside and, you know, you have to rush. I think it's easier for the men.
But there comes a point in every corporate woman's life when she realizes that the ups and downs, the what ifs and should have, and the cans and can'ts need to be put to rest. Because at the end of the day, the show must go on.
You are watching Trending the Streets. I'm Chatterjee, and this has been Truth is Exactly with you. Sit back, relax, watch the show.